Welcome to this episode of the Gearbox Podcast. Now, as a shop owner myself, I know how challenging it can be to juggle the daily tasks of running a successful repair shop. Between managing customers, keeping up with repairs, and staying on top of payments, it can feel like there are just not enough hours in the day, especially now that the holidays are coming up. That's why I want to tell you about ShopBoss. It's the ultimate solution for automotive shop management, designed by industry experts who truly understand our challenges. In fact, the founder was a former shop owner himself. ShopBoss is incredibly user-friendly, so it's easy to set up, learn, and train your team. And the payment options, they've got everything covered. Text to pay, PayPal, Venmo, consumer financing, and even surcharging. It's all embedded seamlessly with Boss Pay powered by 360 payments. No more bouncing between different systems. It's all built right in. To learn more about what ShopBoss can do for your business, visit this custom link for Gearbox listeners. shopboss.net/Gearbox, shopboss.net/Gearbox. And if you didn't hear me the first two times, that's shopboss.net/Gearbox. Or simply touch the link in the show notes. My name is Jimmy Purdy, shop owner, master tech, transmission builder, and the host of the Gearbox Podcast. Here I talk with new and seasoned shop owners, as well as industry professionals about day-to-day operations within their own shops and all the failures and successes that come along the way. From what grinds your gears to having to shift gears in the automotive industry, this is the Gearbox Podcast. That's usually what half this stuff in the automotive field is anyway, right?
Right.
Everyone's just like full of anxiety and all the time. Yeah, but big purchases, you just, I don't know. And then you go online and try to like get people's opinions, and it's like that doesn't make it any better.
I watch Changing the Industry a lot and other groups, and it proves everybody's got an opinion,
Oh yeah. Yeah. And they're not wrong. I mean, if that's what they truly believe, like, so well, if that's what you think, I don't know.
Yeah.
And you're like trying to figure out, well, is that the right way, or am I doing it the right way, or I don't know. But it's funny. It's funny about the whole alignment thing. Well, that's a lot of alignments, and it's like, well, I look at it like, because I guess a lot of the other places, like, you don't have smogs in Minnesota, right?
No, not anymore.
So
we did years ago.
So that's a big expense. I mean, that machine's like $60,000, and you get $50 of smog, right? Like you make $50 for each car on a 60,000. Not just the machine, but then you got to get licensed, and it's like, $3 or $4 grand
in licensing.
Yeah, right? $3 or $4 grand in like education and going to take the time to take the tests and all that other stuff. And it's like, so how many smogs you got to do to pay that machine back?
But you get to do an inspection on every vehicle too that you smog, right?
Some shops do, but typically no. I mean, if you're trying to do $45 smogs and, race to the bottom like most smog shops do, because there's no quality smog check, right? Like you can't, like, it's either you pass or you fail. Like people aren't like shopping around and say, like you can find the best alignment guy, but who are you going to look for? The best smog guy? Like
there's
your best
no
smog
in a smog test.
Yeah,
right?
like your best smog guy is gonna be the one that passes something that shouldn't pass, and I don't think that makes him the best, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like all you can do is price your price lower, so you don't have time to do an inspection. So then you're letting that walk away, and I don't know. It's pretty tough, and then they fail, and no one wants to be told that their car failed. It's like telling them that their kid's ugly.
Good analogy, Jimmy.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it runs fine. What are you talking about? It failed. It's like calling their kid stupid or something, Like, what do you mean my kid failed algebra?
Yeah.
What are you teaching this Common Core? That's the problem. You're the problem, teacher.
Yes. You did it wrong. Smog it again.
Exactly. And so, that's why I got out of it. I don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
But anyway, when you brought that up, that's what it reminds me of. Is like the same thing. It's like, so how much, like, when you deal with buying any equipment, like before you get your ROI on it, like, is there anything really that like we get so consistently in the shop that like you can really monitor and track an ROI on? Like, you don't get advanced assessments all the time. You don't get like, I don't know. There's so much, except for tires.
That Hunter drive-through thing, it's got the two pillars on the sides, and then there's a big plate that you drive over, and it it's got, lasers all over the place, right? It checks alignment, it checks tread depth, it checks tire wear, all of this stuff. And a customer of mine put that in. I think it was, I want to say it was 60K. I might have that off. Maybe it was 40. It was a lot of thousands of dollars, right, to do that. And what it really came down to, ROI was measurable because there's a before and after, right? We put this piece of equipment in, we know how many alignments we do, we know how many tire sets we're selling, or just how many tires we're selling, and then we can measure the after, right? And then really what it came down to was the service advisor and manager at that location needed to buy into, hey, we got a new process. So the owner spends, just call it $40,000 on a piece of equipment. That's great if the execution happens now, right? So it's a little, for that kind of a thing, it's a little bit different than putting in a new 2-post or a drive on, because yes, the technician will use that. The service advisor doesn't have a lot, a lot of say in that part of it. But it's kind of like, does the technician do the inspection? Perfect. Now, does the service advisor capitalize on that? So that from what I've seen, that's where the ROI evaluation comes from. We know, hey, we bought this, it's a very advanced piece of equipment. We're going to use it for diagnostic purposes. Every vehicle is going to have a drive-through on this thing, and we're going to show and share the results with the customer. And they've got a great little display board, and it shows, like, here's your tires, and it exaggerates like there's an alignment issue. Like, it shows really duck-toed front tires if it's
Right.
a little bit off, right? But that's the point, is it needs to help explain it to the customer as well. So
I guess
anyway,
that
that's
yeah, that kind of pushes the envelope a little bit. Like, is that even what they want though? Like some of that equipment that's coming out now and like the processes that are out there, like they just don't get communicated well. So if someone comes in and they're like, "Hey, I smell coolant. I got a coolant leak." Right? Oh, I'll check it out. And then all of a sudden they get this whole readout with their toe with, "Oh, your alignment's so screwed up, and you're gonna wear your tire." Like, that's not why I came in here. I came in here for, like, you didn't tell me you were gonna do that. So I don't know. Then you can have that side of
of
the
course, right?
you have that side of the camp, right, where it's like, don't do something that they're not what and so then you're trying to
It can come
push
back and
you
bite you,
yeah, you're trying to push this ROI on this piece of equipment, and
right?
then it just goes too far the other way. So
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's an awesome piece of equipment, but then
Mm-hmm.
again, if you're small enough, you can. I mean, you get it up on the alignment rack, you can kind of, well, here's the tires and here's your alignment, and you kind of visual that stuff. But I don't know. I saw that when I was at SEMA, and I'm like, holy moly, is that even accurate? Is that even like technology takes like a self checkout in a way, you know?
Yeah, right.
I guess the other thing you can monitor too, since you're here, is adding pieces of equipment to your shop is a phone system, right? That's something you can always count on, is a phone call.
Always,
I
yeah.
think that's step one, right?
What do we need to do to make the phone ring? Yeah, that's where it all begins, right?
And then how do you answer it, or what do you use to answer it? You know?
Right. I had a customer say, I asked them, I asked several customers, give me a one-liner about what we do at Inbound. And, one to very much to your point, Jimmy, was, we live and die by the phone. And that's the truth. You run a shop, you know that if something's wrong there, it's a problem. So it does
Yeah.
begin with the phone.
Oh yeah. So online scheduling is a big thing. Well, it's been a big thing for a while, but I think it's gaining a lot more traction here in the recent year or so, with different companies coming out with online schedulers,
Hmm.
and it's awesome. And I think it's awesome as like an owner's point of view and service advisor's point of view, because it frees up time to answer more phone calls. Like, so you don't have so many phone calls. Hey, I just want to make an appointment. Want to make an appointment. I've, if anything, noticed a little bit of a dip in our scheduling. Maybe I don't know if it's because of that, but a lot of them will, and you can watch them through the process, right? You can track them as they click on the schedule and they click on their issue, and then all of a sudden they bail out a few minutes in, and you're like, what? So you got to follow up. Oh, I don't know. I just wanted to call, you know.
Yeah.
So I just don't think it's there yet. I mean, and I hate to be the one to say maybe not in my area, maybe not my network, but I'm in California and we're in Central Coast. Like, we're if there's going to be a tech area, it's going to be here. And I'm just not getting a whole lot of commitment for new customer leads. I think for existing clients, it's been great because they know the process, they're comfortable. But I think new clients coming in, new acquisition, it's like, I still want to make a phone call. I still want to talk to somebody on the phone, to
Hmm.
make that appointment. I want to hear a body on the other end. And I do that too. If I'm looking at a new vendor online and it's like, oh, I got a warranty, or point in case, I just bought this post pounder. I'm gonna put a fence in the property. It says Mansaver post pounder, whatever. And like the warranty, made in USA. I'm like, wow, this sounds really good. And order it today. We'll ship it out now. And I just wanted to call. I just wanted to call and like make sure somebody was like there. Like I wanted to know that there was another body at that place that would answer the phone in case if I received it in the mail and it wasn't what I wanted it to be or whatever. I can
Right.
like call somebody and like talk to them. I didn't want to find out after I spent $1,000 and it showed up on my doorstep that there's no one there to call. So I don't know. It just goes to show, even with all the new technology and trying to make this whole experience coming into an auto repair shop as like contactless as possible, it's kind of pushed a little far in my opinion. Like, you know what I mean?
It's a great observation, and as an owner, you see it firsthand. As you know, somebody who deals with hundreds of owners across the country in different markets, it's not something that's unique to your market, I wouldn't say. So I think that's it. It's just the consumer. The consumer wants to interact at times in a particular way. So everybody goes through that, I think, where you can look online and see the tools. I just did that with it happened to be a state I was dealing with, and they force all of that activity online, and there's certain registration activity, and I got to a certain point, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm doing this right. That can happen even when we're scheduling for service at a shop.
Hmm.
So the customer goes through that process, and I'm not, we're feeding them a lot of information. I love the tools that are out there, and I think that they're great, and it requires a level of education and sophistication for the customer to really participate in that process. So they may want that option, because I see the statistics probably like you do, and the vendors that do that share it, but the consumer may want that option to do it, but they also, in a lot of cases, are going to default to that phone call. So click to call, or they've got your number if they're a longtime customer, or maybe they're seeing an ad or a promotion that you're doing. So then, if that's the case, we still need to cater to that and not just kind of push them back to the online scheduling experience, but be effective in managing that. And there are a lot of touch points, as you well know, when that call is answered, to be efficient and effective in understanding, empathizing with the customer, but controlling the conversation and getting the appointment set, getting them committed to come into the shop. And just that comment alone touches on 3 or 4 different process areas that we that we touch with the phone in the independent repair shop environment, right? So there's scripting, there's call coaching that goes along with that. We deal a lot with the call recording, so we can go back and use that for training purposes to help educate the service advisors. But paramount is making sure that the call gets in, right? And there are a lot of reasons why a call might not get into us, and then even understanding, like, do we have times of the day or days of the week maybe where we're getting too many calls. I shouldn't say it that way. Too many calls is a nice problem to have, isn't it? But can we?
Typically,
Yeah, can
but
we
not when it's all at the same damn time.
all the same time? Yeah, exactly. If it's spread out over the course of the day, that's great. So what happens if the people that I have in my shop are all talking with a customer?
Mm-hmm.
What is a best practice around that? Do I put somebody on hold to answer another call just to put them on hold? Do I just let it ring? And how do we handle that? That process as well. So many process areas as high performing independent repair shop owners that surround the community, the communication and the phone world, right? And that's where I operate.
Yeah, that's a good point to bring up. Like, because it always happens at like lunchtime when one of the advisors is gone, and then everyone wants to pick up their car because they're on their lunch. So they're like there to pick up because it's convenient for them. But that means they're in a hurry too because they only have an hour, right? They want
Right.
to get it out, and there's a line, and then the phone's ringing, and then it's that awkward of like, everyone in the room can hear the phone ringing, right? And it's like ringing and ringing and ringing, and you're trying to like be as patient as you can and make sure that they get a good experience when they pick up their car, and that you go through your sale, your presentation of, hey, when would you like to schedule this next oil change? As the phone's ringing behind you, and I mean, I I can't stand a ringing phone. Like it's contradictory, right? Like that should be like the sound of money, right? Like burnt transmission fluid. Like I love that smell. That smells like vacation to me.
It smells like money.
But like I've had so we put all our phones on silent, so we just have the vibrate. They just vibrate. We can just hear the desk kind of vibrate a little bit, or
Hmm.
just a little ping, and that's it. I don't want them ringing. I just it's
Yep.
overstimulating, I think.
You bring up a great point, and I talk about this some, but probably not often enough. When we are working with a new customer or even an existing customer, understanding, hey, you might have 3 service advisor desks up front. Maybe you have kiosks, maybe there's a long counter, but there might be 3 or 4 phones. And if those are all turned up to 50% volume, that can be, like, I think the word you just used was overstimulating.
Yeah.
What we don't understand sometimes is that noise carries everywhere. So if an advisor is on the phone, the customer they're talking with hears all of this background noise, right? They hear all of the other phones ringing, that if they're loud. So a best practice around that, of course, is just turn them down. You're going to hear the phone, or what you've done is use the vibrate feature on the handsets that you have, and that helps because you'll hear that if it's sitting on the desk, you'll hear it buzz, that type of thing, just like a cell phone.
Yeah.
So understanding the environment, and we use technology, the equipment, to do some creative things with noise attenuation, and basically trying to hide some of that background noise and keep it a real clean conversation between the advisor and the customer. It's an important consideration for the shop owners to understand what is that noise environment. We think about the air tools and the compressor, and when we're doing the checks, when we take a car in, or honking the horn and stuff like this. So we try to isolate that noise to the shop area, but and keep it from the front. So if you have a customer there, they're not going to be overwhelmed by this noise. But this also matters for the technology that we have. What noise is my computer making? What noise is the phone making? Do I have 3 or 4 different phones? Do I need those all ringing just to notify me I have a call coming in?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many noises, obviously, and I think you get used to it as like a shop environment in quotes, right?
Right.
The air hammer, the air ratchets, everything's kind of gone to electric now, which really helps a lot. But I think it depends on what the noise is. Like subconsciously, if that phone's ringing, there's a lot of unknown, and as an advisor, you're obviously in kind of a fight or flight mode. Like you're in a, you're ready to present yourself, so you got to kind of like, if you're relaxed, kind of going through an estimate, like that phone rings, you got to like, here we go, like game on, game face
Mhm.
on. And if it's ringing all day long, it's like that fight or flight, game on all day long. That's a lot. That's a long time to be on. you
Right.
know and I think it matters. And like the headsets that we got from you are just, they just make the little beep, as it's ringing. It's a little beep, and I think maybe some owners out there look at that as like, well, if it's not loud enough, they're going to miss calls, and each one of those calls, is $800,
Hmm.
$1,200. My ARO is 1,400, so that's a $1,400 phone call that you're missing. So they want that thing ringing off the hook, right? They want it as loud as possible, and I don't know. I don't see it that way personally. I think if you have a sales a pay plan that's set up correctly, that phone call is just as important to them as any other one. But there's only so many things you can do, and,
Right.
and if you're overstimulated and overwhelmed all day, like that's enough, especially if you have, like, you good point about like 2 or 3 advisors. You got 2 or 3 advisors, you got one of them there that just won't freaking answer the phone all day.
Hmm.
Like, oh my god, dude, answer the phone. Even the technicians out there, they can hear it ringing. Like, dude, what's with the phones today? Like, is
Right.
anybody gonna answer that? It's like, we're busy, we don't have time for it, so just put it on silent. And Um, it's nice to have the queue too. So when they call into a queue, they can click 1, 2, or 3, and it kind of redirects that whole process as well. I don't know. Have you had any feedback with that? Like with people not liking that, they like to have it ring right to the desk and not want that prompt?
It's a great question, and I think it depends on the owner's intention. So, um, if somebody's doing that to try to control spam, where they have that's called an auto attendant, right? So
Right.
we hear that you and I call different businesses 100 times a week, and we hear those auto attendants press one for this, two for that, and so on. If your intention is to understand the customer's need when you answer the phone, I think it's perfectly acceptable. If your intention is to cut out spam, I don't like that. And I'll tell you why. Because it creates an extra step or two for the customer to interact with you. So just like when they're going through maybe an online schedule and they pull the eject handle, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't want them to do that on the phone call side, right? They've taken the time to dial the phone. We want to get that call to the advisor or owner as quickly and efficiently as possible, and not necessarily have to require your customer to choose different options. So that's why I say if we're doing that to try to cut out spam plagues businesses. You have dealt with this in the past, and we use a technology on my system to filter through some of that. So then we can have a practical conversation, Jimmy, about what's your intention as the owner of having your customer press one for service, two for, whatever those options might be. And then if there's some intent around that, I think it makes a lot of sense. But we want to vet that process. And if we measure this against how easy it is to do business with you, then I think we come up to a logical solution. And I have plenty of owners that have an attendant on the front end, and it works well for them. They might be a multi-shop owner, and they're trying to make sure that their callers are getting to the right location. They might have different departments within their shop, and they need, if they've got a dedicated parts counter, if they have, if they want to route calls for the service advisors separately from something else, maybe from accounting or bookkeeping, things of that sort, then that does help distribute calls. So it makes sense, but I think it is it has to be purposeful and intentional.
Yeah, not to, like you said, not to use it just to filter the spam out.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had any like statistics in that of seeing the dropout ratio? If someone calls and once they hear an attendant, they just hang up the phone. They don't want to deal with that.
Yeah,
Have you?
super insightful question. So thank you for asking. We have a lot of data on what's called abandon rate, and the abandon rate can be 8 to 10% higher when we have an auto attendant on the front end. So
That's
if
interesting.
I try not to drop a lot of stats, but because I only work with independent repair shop owners and help them with their communication process, I have a lot of data to draw from. So while the auto attendant is very common in other areas of our lives, like you call for an airline ticket, you're going to absolutely go through an auto attendant. If you call the cable company, you're absolutely going to go through an auto attendant. When you call the repair shop, um, it isn't necessarily expected to go through the auto attendant. So that can seem unfamiliar, and actually, um, if somebody feels like this is cumbersome, they might just hang up. Here's the scenario that I envision. They've got something going wrong with their car, and they're driving to work again. And they forgot to call when they, before they left for work or after they got home last night, and now they're hearing this problem again, and they're going to call the shop, and they're doing 80 miles an hour with their hair on fire down the freeway, and they think of it, so they voice dial, and now they have to interact with their phone, which might be
Right.
tucked away, right? So now
Mm-hmm.
they just can't, so they're going to end the call.
Interesting.
And if we don't have an option for them just to pass through without interacting with their phone, they're not going to complete that phone call. So there are some very practical reasons why your customer will self eject, right? They may call back later, which is great, but that moment when they're thinking about it, we're potentially creating a barrier for the ease of interaction, and those are the things that we want to evaluate.
And not to play the devil's advocate
You
But I
can. Go
will.
ahead.
But I will.
Yeah.
So like I see that too, and it kind of goes back to the very when we just jumped on here, the anxiety, right? And so as an advisor, as an owner, you have to make sure that the phone calls you're getting are the phone calls that are obviously going to be profitable, that we can engage in a relationship where we both get something out of it. And
Right.
sometimes in those situations, when their hair is on fire going on the highway, they make that phone call. It's just to get some advice. It's just to, I mean, realistically, tie up the phone lines for someone that's wanting to get in. I get definitely the point, like, hey, I want to make an appointment,
Hmm.
but I also, like I said, to play the devil's advocate is like they just want to call just to talk to someone to get someone to like calm their nerves,
Yep.
and I get it. Like that's part of what we do. I mean, we all are in a business where we're kind of a bartender in a sense, where we got to like ease the
Yeah.
anxiety a little bit. But I don't know. Um, it's interesting to say the least. I don't know if there's a right or a wrong answer. I'm sure there's a camp to go either way. You
I
know,
don't think there is a right or wrong
yeah,
answer.
we use the auto attendant. I don't think I've looked into the data enough to see if we have that dropout rate or the ejecto ceto, whatever you called it.
Yeah. The ejection seat. Yeah, exactly.
So
Um,
I don't know,
now,
but I like
what
it. I don't know.
again, we talked through that. In our case, doing business together, we talked through that process at the front end. Concluded, yes, it makes sense, and we're providing some additional insight and information about how those calls are getting routed. So there is not, a definitive do it this way or do it this way. And I'll tell you, with the hundreds and hundreds of owners that I work with, we start with best practices and grow from there. So um, the best practices help because if you don't have a way that you're doing it, then we can make some informed recommendations. As a communication expert, I can help an owner understand what works well and what works well specifically in the independent automotive repair space, because that's my entire audience. That's all that's all of the people I work with are independent repair shop owners. So we can look at this from a communication process standpoint and have a starting point and then say things like, typically what we might see in this case is fill in the blank. Usually what we're working with, and this could be after hours call handling, maybe voicemail distribution, into some more sophisticated areas around, using a voice prompt to initiate a text message that would send somebody an appointment link after hours, this type of thing. So
Hmm.
we can start from both a position of authority and experience that is helpful, because no owner is necessarily going to do it exactly like the others do, because it's their business. This is your business. This is your peers' business. You're in a coaching group, and everybody there has a little bit of a different way, but there are some similarities around that. So that's how we develop best practices. And then that also gives the advantage of a starting point, so that we're not just saying, well, here's your phone, good luck, and we'll make it ring. But let's talk about an operational business process that affects the way that your customers communicate with you, the way that your vendors communicate with you, dealerships and parts suppliers and so on. And then ultimately that, the way that you manage your communication platform to be efficient for your advisors. So I said a lot of words there. I'll take
No,
it.
that's I mean that no, that's that yeah, I mean that's what it is. And you can hear it from marketers, you can hear it from anybody. Like, sure, we can make your phone ring, but what you do with it is what matters, you know? And there's still plenty of shops out there that answer the phone. What do you need? Or hello? Like you
Yeah.
said hello?
Yeah.
You answered your business phone with a hello, right? Like, or even what? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, you can have the best phone systems in the world. You got the best marketers in the world. Your phone can ring all day long, but if you're not answering it right, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter, you know. And it seems a little over the top when you talk about, an independent repair shop, kind of like my own, where we're not real big, we're not huge. My wife and I, 2 advisors, 4 technicians. It's probably bigger than most smaller shops, but it's not a big shop. We're not at 10 employees, right? So I guess that makes us a smaller. But anyway, the point is we have the auto attendant, right, process, and we also have the phone call etiquette. We make sure we answer every phone call with, "This is Shifting Gears Auto Repair. My name is Jimmy. How can I help you today?" Every single time. That's how the phone's answered. Like, there is no ifs, ands, or buts, right? We have caller ID. We know who's calling. That's how the phone gets answered. Like, it's not like, hey, Jim, like, oh, I saw your caller ID. So they just pick, hey, no, we don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if you know who it is. Like, there's a process, and that's how we do it. And it seems like a lot, but it just builds the picture that we're trying to paint, or paints the picture we're trying to paint, in a sense where it's like,
Right.
you're calling here because we're a professional facility, and we want a process to kind of like showcase that. And that's the front of the counter. It's like, that's the first time you make contact. That's your first touch point, is a phone call.
You bring up a very, very good point, and my hope is that your audience hears exactly what you just said, because what you just said is consistency. Consistency matters. So if you have a script, if you don't have a script, come up with one.
Yeah.
That's your prerogative as the owner. But then make sure that every time, even if based on the caller name that comes up on the screen or something of that sort, even if be consistent with that, because you just never know. You may glance over and think it's somebody, and then you're like, hey, what's going on? And they're like, who did I call? You throw somebody off. Now
Absolutely.
now you've created
Absolutely.
a confusing situation, and you just don't want to do that. So you just simply take that. It doesn't take longer to say, thank you for calling Shifting Gears. This is Jimmy. How can I help you? It doesn't take longer to do that than, Bob's Garage or what. You're just saying a few extra words. That's all.
Yeah.
So consistency is important. And then, being able to hopefully have the ability to, you talked about marketers, we'll make the phone ring. Even beyond that, you've got the consistency of the way that we answer the phone and how we control that phone call. Things like not diagnosing over the phone, not, quoting over the phone, this type of stuff. Those are important factors.
Well, hey, I didn't say I was perfect. Okay.
Sure. I got you. I know I'm poking in the eye there. My apologies.
But right between both my eyes, where you got me there on that one. That's why they don't let me answer the phone anymore.
Sorry, man. I made it personal.
But you're right. But you're right.
But then what can I do to help you know who's calling? Right? Not just the name, but did they call because of a Google ad? Did you send out a text blast, or did you leverage your slow day action plan to generate some calls? You've got a marketing company that's doing, maybe they're doing mailers, maybe they're doing decline service follow-ups. There are a whole variety of reasons why people are calling in. And then the interesting part of this is, because of the marketing and business development companies that we use in the industry, they're not always just calling your main phone number. So we can use that to our advantage, right? If they're not calling your main phone number and they're calling what we call a tracking number, you've probably heard of that, tracking numbers. Marketers use tracking numbers. We can actually leverage that to even prompt you to say, hey, this is coming from a Google AdWord. This is coming from a mailer, right? Or this is a promotion that you're doing. In addition to the caller name information, doing that type of little prompt right on the screen. And then further beyond that, pushing the caller search information right into your shop management platform. So, depending on the platform that you're using, pop a search up that says, here's your customer, right? So we know that who's calling. We see the name. Sometimes it says wireless caller, but a lot of times we see the name. We know the way that they've called us, and that gives us some information about why. And now we can go right into the shop management platform and see, based on the phone number, is this somebody we've done business with before? And then we have more insight to the customer information, their vehicles, maybe previous repair orders, previous declined services. So arming you as an owner or a service advisor to really have all of that insight information that you need to, again, control the conversation, be effective in the interaction with the customer, get an appointment. A lot of times, if they're not calling back because we're talking about an estimate, they're calling and we need to make an appointment with them. So these are parts of leveraging a really effective digital communication platform.
You know what I think is really hard about kind of doing that process is when your phone's ringing and you have so many spam callers or
Mhm.
calling the wrong shop or call like, and so you're just kind of frustrated every time the phone rings because it's not um bottom line, it's not profitable. You realize like this phone call is probably going to be another waste of my time, and I'm so busy with so many other things right now. But I've noticed since moving to inbound is that the amount of calls that we get are the calls that we want. So having these systems now are easier to follow because you know that it's going to be a $1,400 ticket on the other end of that line. Like more likely than not, it's going to be a client that you wanted to shop. So you slow down a little bit and you can follow that procedure that we have in place, even for the service advisors. Every time the call is like they're looking for me. Hey, where's Jimmy?
Right.
Hey, this is so and so with what and what, and I need to talk to the owner. Like they don't want to answer that phone call, right? But it's nice to have that the system in place that allows that, so they know when that someone's calling, it's someone that needs help, someone that needs, and an important thing with just, it's one thing to have like the script and like to follow it, but you really really have to like slow yourself down and talk like this. Hey, this is Jimmy. How can I help you? Like be like real about it, because I hear that a lot too when you call
That
the
made me feel
repairs.
good when you said that just now. On the side of the on the side of the call, it made me feel good.
I mean, it's all it takes, right? It's like it's the inflection of it, and Cecil talks
Yeah.
about it all the time. And that
Yeah.
guy, I just love that guy. The way he's on the phone is like it's so like perfectly said, and it's not even like what he said, it's like how he said it, you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's lost. That's really lost because they have the script and they're doing the thing, but they're like, how can I help you today? Right? Like
Mhm.
nobody wants to like, well, am I bothering you right now? Like, I'm sorry I called, I guess. Sounds like you're busy. Yeah, I am busy. What can I do? What can I do
Yeah,
for
what do you
you?
need? What do you need?
Like what? Like why? That's crazy. It's a crazy concept when this person's going out of all the different shops in the area they can be calling. They decided to pick and call your shop, and that's the level of communication they're getting right off the bat. Like I don't know. I don't get it at all.
How do we get people to buy in on that? Not sorry to reverse the interview here, but I'd love to know from your perspective to take that breath first, slow down, use the calming voice. How do I get somebody to believe in that and realize that, yeah, I have 7 estimates that I'm working on, and I have 4 technicians here who are all beating me up for whatever. The phone rings. How do I take that breath, whether I'm the owner or the service advisor, and just slow down for a second? How do I do that? How would you do that?
Listen to Chris Voss on
Never
Masterclass.
split the difference, right?
The
So
hostage negotiator, Chris Voss.
yeah.
Yeah,
So it's funny because when you
the late
just
night DJ voice.
the 2 a.m. radio DJ
Yes, the
voice.
late night DJ
Yeah.
voice. Yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was for me though. I think you have to find your own kind of like why. But for some reason, that really resonated with me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm on a mic a lot. but but it's like you have to just okay. If I'm gonna answer this phone right now, it has to be looked at differently. Maybe like the phone really needs to be viewed in a different light than just I don't know. Like the technicians don't need to be answering the phone. The shop
Mhm.
owner really shouldn't be answering the phone either, right? Like there should be a dedicated service advisor to
Right.
answer the phone, right? Or a secretary or whatever. And that's who has the script and they're not even involved in all that process you were just talking about. All that stress and anxiety is not even, and that's why the owner shouldn't be answering either because you can't. Like there's some days when every single person has everybody coming at the shop has a question for you. You got 2 other people that left you a message at 8 o'clock and it's almost noon. You still need to eat lunch. You're trying to write systems and processes out. You're trying to do this, that, and the other thing. And then, you know what? The phone's ringing. I'm going to just ignore all my other tasks that I'm doing, answer that phone call. Like, what are you doing right now? That's not
Mhm.
what you should be doing, So, and I mean, I guess I'm speaking from experience when it what
Right.
I'm talking about. Like, I'll go ahead and just postpone these tests because the phone's ringing and I don't want to do this other stuff, but I'm not in the right state of mind to be effectively communicating with someone. So I don't know. Maybe it's that. I don't have a good answer for you.
No, I think it's good. I think you highlighted a lot of things. One is, whose job is it to answer the phone?
Right.
Among my customers across the country and in every market you could imagine, I'm seeing more and more CSRs. So this is somebody who is checking in a customer, answering the phone. They're the first, they're the first line of phone answerers. So that can be more controlled, and then they're also part of a call coaching process, so that it becomes real, and they can. I think, you know, in, independent of who we decide the point person is in the shop to answer the phone, it is important to come back and review some of those calls. So that gets into the call coaching world. Are
Mm-hmm.
we effective in answering the phones? There's a very powerful moment when a CSR or an advisor or whoever is answering calls, when they listen to the way that they handled that call. Right, we take the noise out of the room for a second. We're going to play this call recording. Maybe it's a 90-second call. We're going to listen through this. There's something very powerful that happens when they listen to themselves. They hate it at first, right? And if you've ever listened to your own calls, I've listened to my own calls.
Yeah.
I
Well,
hate it
yeah.
at first, but
I've
then
listened to a lot of my recorded voice over the
oh
past year or so.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Look who I'm talking with
I
here.
stopped listening after a while. No.
So we are, we're probably our own best advocate, and in addition to being our own worst critic, but we can
Yeah.
leverage that in the shop by simply making a priority to grab calls, listen to them.
Do
Whether
you
it's a coach, an advisor, or an owner, an advisor, but sit down together and listen to those calls.
do you find it to be subconscious too? Like I've noticed like over the years of listening to my phone calls and whatnot, you kind of get this subconscious knowing. Like you
Mhm.
hear it and it's not like you read, and I think that's the problem when people want to hear their own recorded voice or their own phone calls. It's like they want to get a notepad and a paper out and write down all the mistakes that they made. And I don't think that's the process. I think just listening and listening and listening, you start subconsciously hearing your own inflection, the own way you talk, the way you
Mhm.
maybe talk too much or not enough, or you talk too fast. Like, and it's just a subconscious knowing that your brain just like absorbs. It's really weird. Like it's hard to explain, but you can't write it down.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. And you touched on a couple things just now. One is there is a process to call reviews and call coaching. I think everybody naturally goes through this phase of, okay, I got my notepad here. I'm going to take notes on everything I did wrong. I'm going to judge myself. We go through that phase, but we get beyond that phase too, where I can be constructive in listening to the call. I do have one customer that comes to mind in particular that the advisors immediately after a call ends, where they feel like they can learn something from that. Now they've conditioned themselves, trained themselves to let the owner know, hey, I just had this call with so and so. Would you go grab that? I want to review that with my coach. Or the advisor may have their own access to go in and grab that call because they want to review it with their coach. They this is exactly what you just said. There's self-awareness. So the next time I'm on a call, I'm recounting some things that I've learned from listening over time, and I'm going to be better, but I'll also recognize maybe when I'm off tilt a little here, right? So where is this conversation going? Am I empathetic? Am I determining the needs? Do I have control of this conversation? Am I short? Even during a call, Jimmy, I can stop for a second and take a breath and
Right.
calm myself.
Right.
But there has to be self-awareness. So this is a very powerful component of the call coaching process. And I think just to underscore coaching and reviewing, it's important to be consistent and to do it over time. We can't go in and do it for a week or two and then come back and revisit it 6 months later. It's super important, I believe, to maintain consistency in that reviewing and coaching process.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, I like everything you want to be good at is consistent. You have to be consistent with, but also it's got to be kind of natural because like the scripted stuff, anybody can tell it's scripted, right? Like on my radio show, I have a lot of times where I'll read just an article, right?
Mm-hmm.
And no matter how I inflect it, no matter how I try to make it seem organic, it's very, very obvious that I'm reading it. When I go back and listen to it, I'm like,
Right.
oh, man, that is so like, how can I tell that? Like, well, maybe it's just because it's me. And it's like, no, everyone can tell that I'm just reading something. I'm like, oh, I really thought I was fooling everybody. Right. Like, and
Right.
it's just something about organic talk and like making the
Yeah.
mistakes and slipping up and saying and like throwing it in different like, and you just can't like AI will never touch that. Like you can't have an organic conversation with an AI bot or have it scripted or anything.
Right.
And so we've recently hired a new advisor, and the first thing that we did was have her go back and listen to our phone calls for the last 2 months with our other advisor, with me and with Leanne, and just go. I want you to go back through and just spend half the day just listening to phone calls. I want you to hear how we talk, and how we communicate, and that's what I want you to do. And we gave her a script and say, I want you to pick up and say this, that, and the other thing. But um, other than that, it was kind of like here you go.
Right.
And it's kind of shaky. Like, you go back and listen to some of the phone calls and you're like, ugh. But that's part of the process. Like, if we gave her a detailed script, without that script, where would she go? Right.
Right.
Like, you got to kind of build your own thing. Right. Don't like copy it and make it sound robotic, but
Mm-hmm.
also kind of have like some sort of an outline to base it around.
I agree completely. It does need to be natural or it's insincere. And going back to the customer's experience, they're looking for people when they call. They want to know that somebody's genuinely interested, that they're sincere in,
So
you
you
know,
have to be.
of course,
So
yeah,
you have to be genuine. You have to. So the only way they're going to be able to feel that is if you actually
if you actually
are.
are, yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know.
So it's not, here's your box, right, and go, go answer the phone in this box. You have to give that latitude. So again, another important part of training and ongoing reviewing and coaching. Um, the time is real, right? So this as an owner, the amount of time required to do that is it's like investing in your business and in a lot of other ways as well. So overseeing the work product that comes out of the shop, minimizing comebacks, and owners do that in a variety of different ways. It's as important in the front office where we have advisors answering the calls to invest the time and be deliberate and intentional about the call reviewing so that you can find out what is working and what's not working. I love your idea, incidentally, about having a new advisor just listen to some calls, because there are always good calls and teachable calls. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
Like good
somebody could,
calls and teachable ones. Not
yeah,
no bad ones though.
yeah, that's right. So I wouldn't say there's a bad call, right? So, but doing that, and then obviously with context, but then understanding how somebody else does it. Now we're beginning to formulate for a new employee, a new advisor, a new CSR, formulate what I've heard into my own dialogue, so that for me, it doesn't feel like I'm just reading a script, but this is something where I understand our objective, and as an owner, then you can give certain latitude to your call handlers, which are typically service advisors, and give them certain latitude. Here are the things that we want to accomplish in the call, but make it your own conversation. You don't have to
Absolutely.
be
Yep.
robotic.
Mm-hmm.
And there are tools out there that help facilitate that sales training, the call handling, and things of that sort. You had mentioned AI a moment ago. AI doesn't replace the service advisor. I know that there's even been talk in some of the industry events lately about, does the service advisor exist in X number of years? Yeah, I think so. I don't think AI replaces the human nature of our business and our industry, does it? But we can use that as a tool in helping take some of the heavy lifting, if you will, that all the major time commitment. When I'm talking with owners about call reviews, or I'm talking with coaches or what have you, it's we always acknowledge, if you have a 3-minute phone call, how long does it take to review a 3-minute phone call? Interestingly, it's probably like 6 minutes. So you almost double the time. If you're listening to a 90-second phone call, it takes 3 minutes. And if you're just doing the hunt and peck method, so it's great to have the ability to go back and listen to any phone call. You can see them all on a list. I can listen to any one of these. That's all great, but that becomes a little bit of kind of the hunt and peck for the call review process. I need to listen to a call. Where is this going? And then make some assessments. Maybe I have to listen to it a second time, and then that's actually not a coachable call or a teachable call. So now I got to move on to something else. So for sitting down on a weekly basis with a service advisor, the feedback that I hear from managers, owners, call coaches is, it's probably 30 to 45 minutes of preparation time to be ready to sit down and do that call coaching session. That can be a real heavy lift for a lot of owners and a
It
lot
is
of
a
managers.
lot of time. Yeah.
It's a
There's
lot of time.
and there's a lot of excuses. Like
Yep.
that's the problem. Not to sit down, but when you are on the phone with somebody and then someone's reviewing that call, it's the human nature to come up with excuses of why you
Yep.
said that, and it takes a long time to like break that wall down
Yeah.
to get them to understand. Look, like I'm not saying you did a bad job, right? I'm just saying like this is a teachable moment, and instead of this, say this, right? But no one's gonna just take that information and be like, oh, of course, boss, I got it next time. Like, no, like, well, I said that because he said this or she said this. It's like, so
Yeah.
it takes a long time just to get to the point where you're even starting to accept that sort of
Yep.
feedback. It's not an easy thing to do, but step
You're
one
right.
is starting to listen, like right out of the gate. He's like, that's what we want to do right out of the gate. Let's get you listening to these phone calls because this is
Right.
important. And just like you nailed it on the head, that's exactly what it was. So this is our process. Our process is different than most other shops. And so I want you to hear how we have a process built for the clients when they come in. This is what we explain to them. That way they know what to
Mm-hmm.
expect. We're setting expectations with this phone call. Set them however you want, but these are the expectations that we want to set. It's important.
It is. It's important, and it comes back to consistency, getting in and identifying those calls, listening to them, learning, developing, and then being teachable is super important. You just mentioned that, being teachable and having that expectation of the advisor.
Mm-hmm.
We're not sitting down and judging, we're sitting down and learning, right? So we're going to do this together. Or I mean, it depends on how you do it. You might just say, take 20 minutes and go listen to the calls, and here's the what I'd like you to learn out of that. Maybe you do it with them. There are a lot of different ways to be effective. It's important to do it, and then being able to quickly identify those calls, and that's where I think the technology does come into play. It, like AI, machine learning, some of the predictive and intelligence is taking all of the calls and then filtering that down to 3 or 5. Just like maybe there's the service advisor handled 40 calls in a day, but here are 3 that are coachable or teachable.
Yeah,
That's where the
that'd be
technology.
awesome. Yeah.
So
Or find
that,
trends. What's the most commonly asked question, right? Because you
yes,
asked your
yep,
advisor that, and like, I don't know, I did 20 calls today. I don't remember what they asked me. Like, you're
yeah,
just moving on, moving on, moving on. And how cool to have like that AI integration to be able to capture those commonly asked questions, and
yes.
then, like you said, we could focus on how to answer that more effectively, or have that be on the website. Like, here's our comment.
Frequently
Here's the
asked
answers to
question,
your
right?
questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And using that insight, then if we can't handle a call, maybe we give the option back to the auto attendant. Hey, if you need information on this, press this button. We can send them a link, we can send them an FAQ document, we can send them information. We want to try to anticipate, predict, and understand what people need when they're calling, so that even if we can't handle the call, which that speaks volumes to our after hours call handling process, but that happens during the day sometimes as well. So what happens in this call, identifying the things that are talked about, right? What's the trends, what are the common questions, this type of thing. Utilizing technology for call review, call coaching, sales training. We do that at Inbound. I had one owner say that, you should talk about automating your sales training. And there's a component of that that's real, right? Which is we want to quickly get to, 3 to 5 calls that we can use for training purposes. It, like, literally log in, boom, here are my 3 calls. But that's, I think, probably the extent of automation around that, because there's there's still the human learning part of what we need to do to learn and train from those calls. So if we can quickly get to them, and then also to your point, Jimmy, is quickly understand what are the things that are spoken, and what are, when a customer calls, what are they asking about, and what are the top two or three things that are the common questions, right? And they're probably pretty consistent in the industry, but it could depend on your specialty as well. How can we use that to benefit our customers and feed them that information proactively when they call, this type of
Yeah.
stuff? So
Be one
that's
step
where the
ahead.
tech really comes in. Yeah.
So David, getting down to the end of this, I wanted to ask you, for your phone system, it's automotive based or automotive targeted. What's the story behind that? What's the background with using the obviously the phone system can be used for anything in the
Right.
world.
Yeah. Yep.
How did you end up in the automotive industry?
That's a good question. Thanks for asking that. I've been in the communication world for about 16 years now. Just a quick, subtext on me. I grew up in corporate America. I was in a few different Fortune 50 companies, and learned process engineering. That's not what my academic training was, but that's really my professional training, is process engineering. So I got into the use of technology when I was working at GE, the use of technology to remove defect from business process. Usually removing defect from a business process means removing people. So that's where technology comes into play. And I think it's kind of a funny perspective, is like, we want to remove defect from a process, so we got to remove the people from the process. Well, that's not entirely true, but we have to understand how to measure that. So I got into technology, and I used that in a couple of other steps in my career, and then I wound up at a large manufacturing business, and was part of, well, I redefined the manufacturing process, the order handling process, created a call center. This manufacturing company produced an infomercial, and the company exploded. It went from hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue per month to millions and tens of millions of dollars in revenue per month. So it was quite a roller coaster ride. And that's where I got involved in communication. So now fast forward, I started my company almost 8 years ago now. And shortly after I started, I was kind of like, well, okay, I've had a couple of different businesses. They've been successful. I've done phone service. I'll just, I'll create this company, and I'll sell to anybody and everybody. And then I was invited to, sorry, I don't mean to skip around on you. One of my customers, who's a very successful independent automotive repair shop owner in the Twin Cities here, when I started to set up the phones in his 6 locations at the time, now 14, I was in there, and I was working through and getting to know the managers and service advisors and seeing them work. And I started to identify that there were some gaps in their effectiveness. So I started to bring these things back to the owner. And he said, that it kind of, after a while, he kind of gave me the stop bringing me these problems and bring me a solution for this, right?
That's
Problems
what I
are
say.
great.
That's what I say all day too. Like,
Yeah.
so what's your question, and how are you gonna fix that?
Yeah. So what? Yeah, great. You found a problem. What's the solution to this? Right. So
Yeah.
stop bringing me problems. Bring me some solutions.
Yep.
And we have a great relationship, and so I started to work in kind of not just do the phones for them. I was running my company Inbound at the time, but I started to work alongside in an operations capacity for this multi-shop owner, and get involved in their systems and business process and technology and so forth. He then began to bring me to his peer group meetings, which at the time was Bottom Line Impact Group, and then that training organization was acquired by Cecil over at the Institute for Automotive Business Excellence. And that, being around that group of owners, I wasn't there to help them with their phones at the time. I was there to be a real subject matter expert in the systems and process side of what we do operationally in the independent automotive repair industry. So I started to make more connections, recognize that there was a huge need for somebody to be a real communication process expert in this industry. So yes, I'm running my phone company on one side and I'm working in, really an operations capacity on the other side. I married those two together and decided I'm going to focus here, and made that frankly a mission. And what I say now is I'm the number one solution provider. I think this is important to understand. It's a solution, not just a product or just a phone. I'm the number one solution provider focused on high performing independent automotive repair shop owners. That's how I got to where I am today. And I made a decision very early on after I started Inbound that I'm going to focus on exclusively independent automotive repair shop owners. It's turned out very well. There's a big need in the industry. My customers are mostly friends now. I make a point of getting to know people and understanding their business. And my first conversation, anytime I meet somebody, is tell me about you. Tell me about how you got to where you are, because that really is important. I think that sets the stage then for what we want to accomplish in making the communication side of their business improved.
Well said. And until you get it, you just don't get it.
Right. Yeah.
and I think you're right. I think it's like it's elevating the industry, right? And elevating it at the first touch point, which is that phone call. And I say it as it's just a phone call, but it's not. It's the phone call is the touch point. The communication is what happens after that, right? And
Correct.
that's what sets the stage and sets the expectations. And as long as you can back up that expectation as the shop owner with trained technicians, trained service advisors, quality control processes, deliver the car fixed,
Right.
cleaned, and effectively communicated, then then it's a whole package, right? But it all starts with that first touch point. So, yeah.
It's an important first touch point, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for, the adage is all ships in the harbor rise with the tide. So I feel
Mm-hmm.
like being a piece of that to move the industry that I'm passionate about. I tell my customers I'm in the industry and I serve the industry. Those are super important aspects. So I'm not just kind of on the outside looking in. I'm in the training sessions. I'm learning what's going on. I'm very close to many owners, and I've got my thumb on the pulse of what's happening in the industry. And we spend a lot of time, Jimmy, and you're part of this as well, talking about really elevation, right? So what is this overall experience, and how do we understand what the customer expectation of the service experience is, and then meet them or exceed them in their own expectation. So that's where we're bringing up the water level in the harbor, and the ships that are in that harbor are rising with it, and you're one of those ships.
Yeah. Well, you're either gonna float or you're gonna sink.
Yeah.
So, I'd rather not be on the bottom.
That's right.
I'd rather go up with everybody else, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what you do. If I can give someone come into the shop and they and legitimately wow them, and when they leave, they say, "Wow, that was I haven't been in a shop in a long time. That was quite an experience." And I get that a lot with the way they answer the phones and the way the whole process is communicated to them. You get a review that is true and genuine. A lot of people ask, "How do I get more Google reviews? How do I get more Yelp reviews?" Run a better shop.
Run a better shop. Yep.
you know,
And then ask for them.
and then
Right.
ask. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
typically you don't even need to ask when
I
they.
mean, yeah. If you wow somebody, they're eager to put that out there,
Yeah, they want to
because
tell. They want to tell everybody else what an experience they had.
part of the way we're wired, I think, is to have everybody everybody do what we do, right? So if I had this amazing experience, I want other people to feel like I feel, and I want them to know about it. So I might tell my neighbor about it, or I might go put it on Google or Yelp.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an important part of our psychology as people. So yeah, make it a great experience every time they call, every time they walk in the door.
That's it. Well, David, I appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir.
David Boyd with Inbound. Give him a call.
Yeah, give me a call. I'm at callinbound.com is the website. If I can be so bold as to plug that, callinbound.com.
Yes.
Love to hear from you, and really appreciate you, Jimmy. I love what you're doing.
Well, and I appreciate the service that you've given to us in our shop. So